thousands of people gathered in a massive tent. They were sitting on the floor, packed together, waiting. The air was thick with anticipation. Everyone was there to witness something extraordinary. At the front of the tent sat a man in his mid-20s. He wore traditional saffron robes. He had long hair, a tilak on his forehead, and prayer beads around his neck. He looked like a Hindu holy man, a sadhu. His name was Dhirendra Shastri, but the world knew him by a different name, Bageshwar Baba. People called him a miracle worker, a saint, a man with divine powers. They believed he could read minds, that he could see into people's souls, that he knew their names, their problems, their deepest secrets, without ever meeting them before. One by one, people approached him, and one by one, he would tell them things about their lives that supposedly no one else could know. Your father's name is Ramesh. You have been suffering from a disease for 3 years. There is a problem in your family related to property. The crowd gasped. How did he know? It was a miracle, but was it really? Or was it an elaborate trick? A carefully crafted illusion designed to exploit desperate, vulnerable people. In January 2023, a man named Shyam Manav decided to find out. He issued a public challenge to Bageshwar Baba, a challenge that would expose the truth. But before Bageshwar Baba could accept the challenge, he disappeared. He left Nagpur 2 days early. His followers claimed he had other commitments. His critics claimed he ran away. So what's the real story? Who is Bageshwar Baba? How does he perform these so-called miracles? And why do millions of people believe in him? Today, we're going to uncover the truth. We're going to expose the tricks, the manipulation, and the dangerous cult that's being built around this man. But before we begin, if you're interested in videos like this, videos that uncover hidden truths and expose frauds, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We post new investigations every week, and you don't want to miss them. Now let's dive into the story of Bageshwar Baba. Dhirendra Shastri was born in 1996 in a small village in Madhya Pradesh, India. His real name, according to reports, is Dhirendra Krishna Garg. He's only 26 years old. Think about that for a moment. A 26-year-old man is being worshipped as a saint by millions of people. When most 26-year-olds are struggling to find jobs or build careers, Dhirendra built a religious empire. He runs an ashram called Bageshwar Dham in his village. Thousands of people visit this ashram every week, hoping for blessings, solutions to their problems, and miracles. But Dhirendra didn't start his public career as a spiritual guru. He started as something far more controversial. In April 2022, Dhirendra was giving a speech in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh. It wasn't a spiritual sermon, it was a political, communal speech. He stood in front of a crowd and said, "I request all Hindus to come together and raze the homes of stone pelters with bulldozers." He was referring to a controversial policy in Uttar Pradesh, where the government was demolishing homes of people accused of throwing stones during protests. The policy was widely criticized for violating due process and targeting specific communities. But Dhirendra wasn't criticizing it. He was celebrating it. He was calling for more of it. He went further. He said, "Wake up, you cowards! Hindus, arm yourselves! Show the world that Hindus are united!" This was a direct call for violence. A call for people to take the law into their own hands. A call to abandon the police, the courts, and the legal system. It was, by any reasonable definition, a hate speech. A speech designed to incite communal violence and disrupt public peace. But despite this, no action was taken against him. No arrest, no legal consequences, nothing. A few days later, Dhirendra gave another speech. This time, he didn't call himself a Baba. He called himself a Dhaba. In Hindi, Dhaba is a roadside restaurant. It was a strange choice of words, but what he meant was clear. He was saying, "I'm not here to be peaceful. I'm here to be provocative." He said, "They don't know I'm not a Baba. I'm a Dhaba, and I will continue making such speeches." It was a brazen admission. He was openly admitting that he had no intention of changing his ways. But the controversy didn't stop there. In another incident, a video surfaced showing Dhirendra practicing caste-based discrimination. In the video, devotees are approaching him to touch his feet, a common gesture of respect in Indian culture. Dhirendra extends his feet toward them. They touch his feet and move away. But then another person approaches, and Dhirendra's reaction is different. He pulls his feet back and says, "Stop! Don't touch me, you untouchable person." The word he used was deeply offensive. It was a casteist slur. He was openly practicing untouchability, a practice that has been illegal in India since 1950. But again, no legal action was taken. So here's what we know so far. Dhirendra Shastri, also known as Bageshwar Baba, is a 26-year-old man who has given hate speeches calling for violence, admitted he has no intention of stopping, and has been caught on camera practicing caste-based discrimination. And yet millions of people worship him as a saint. How did this happen? The answer lies in what happened next. Dhirendra realized that making communal speeches alone wouldn't be enough to build a massive following. He needed something more, something that would make people believe he was truly special. So he started performing miracles. By late 2022, Dhirendra Shastri had rebranded himself. He was no longer just giving political speeches. He was now holding what he called Divya Darbars, divine courts. These events would take place in large tents or open grounds. Thousands of people would gather, and Dhirendra would sit at the front, like a king holding court. One by one, people would approach him with their problems, and he would, supposedly through divine powers, tell them things about their lives that he couldn't possibly know. He would say things like, "Your name is Ramesh Kumar. Your father's name is Suresh Kumar. You live in Delhi. Your phone number is 98765-43210. You have been suffering from a kidney problem for the last 2 years. There is a dispute in your family over property." The person would be shocked. "Yes, Baba, that's all correct. How did you know?" The crowd would erupt in applause. It was a miracle. Bageshwar Baba had divine powers. Videos of these sessions went viral on social media. Millions of people watched, and millions of people believed. But here's the thing. These weren't miracles. They were tricks. Tricks that have been used by con artists for centuries. Let me explain how this works. Trick 1. Pre-show information gathering. Before these events, Dhirendra's team would go into the crowd. They would talk to people. They would ask, "Why are you here? What problem do you have?" People would openly share their problems. "I have a kidney disease. There's a property dispute in my family. My son is not getting married." The team would take note of this information. Sometimes they would ask for more details. "What's your name? Where are you from? What's your father's name?" People would answer, not realizing that this information was being collected and passed on to Dhirendra. When the person finally approached Dhirendra during the event, he would already know everything about them. Trick 2. Cold reading. Cold reading is a technique used by mentalists and psychics. It involves making general statements that could apply to almost anyone, and then watching the person's reactions to narrow down the details. For example, Dhirendra might say, "I sense there is a problem in your family related to health. Almost everyone has some health problem in their family." So the person nods. Then Dhirendra says, "It's a chronic problem. It's been going on for a while." Again, most chronic problems have been going on for a while. The person nods again. Then Dhirendra makes a guess. Is it related to the kidneys or the liver? If the person's face lights up, he knows he's right. If not, he quickly moves to another guess. This technique makes it seem like he's reading minds, when in reality, he's just making educated guesses based on the person's reactions. Trick 3. Planted audience members. In some cases, the people approaching Dhirendra aren't random audience members. They're plants, people who work for him. They come up, pretend to be amazed by his powers, and help create the illusion that he's performing miracles. This isn't speculation. This is a well-documented technique used by fake spiritual leaders around the world. But despite all this, people continued to believe. And Dhirendra's following grew larger and larger. And that's when Shyam Manav decided to step in. Shyam Manav is not a random critic. He's a man with a mission. And that mission has been his life's work for over 40 years. Shyam Manav is the national convener of the Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti. In English, that translates to the Maharashtra Committee for the Eradication of Superstition. This organization was founded in the 1980s by a man named Narendra Dabholkar. Dabholkar was a doctor, a social activist, and a rationalist. He dedicated his life to fighting superstition, black magic, and fraudulent spiritual practices in India. For years, Dabholka campaigned for a law that would make it illegal to exploit people in the name of superstition. He wanted to protect vulnerable people from being scammed by fake spiritual leaders. But his work made him enemies, powerful enemies. On August 20th, 2013, Narendra Dabholka was shot and killed while on a morning walk in Pune. He was 67 years old. The murder sent shockwaves across India. Dabholka had been threatened many times, but no one thought it would actually happen. His killers were later identified as members of a right-wing extremist group. They killed him because they saw his work as a threat to their ideology. But Dabholka's death wasn't in vain. 4 months later, in December 2013, the Maharashtra government passed the Maharashtra Prevention and Eradication of Human Sacrifice and Other Inhuman, Evil and Agori Practices and Black Magic Act. It was a law Dabholka had been fighting for his entire life, and it finally became a reality after his death. Shyam Manav had been with the organization since its founding. After Dabholka's death, he continued the work. Over the years, Shyam Manav has exposed more than 200 fake spiritual leaders. He's filed complaints, gathered evidence, and worked with police to take legal action against fraudsters. One of his most famous cases was against Shakuntala Devi, known as the human computer. Shakuntala Devi was a mathematical genius. She could perform incredibly complex calculations in her head. But later in her career, she started offering astrology services and claiming she could predict the future. Shyam Manav challenged her. He filed a police complaint, and she had to flee from an event in Nagpur. After that, Shakuntala Devi stopped practicing astrology. Another major case involved 5 foreign Christian missionaries who were holding events where they claimed to perform miracles. They claimed they could make blind people see and deaf people hear. Shyam Manav filed a complaint under the Drugs and Magic Remedies Act. It was the first time in India that foreign missionaries were arrested for such fraud. So when Shyam Manav heard that Bageshwar Baba was coming to Nagpur in January 2023, he paid attention. Initially, he didn't have a problem. Dhirendra was coming to Nagpur for a Ram Katha, a religious storytelling event. Shyam Manav said that was fine. He had no objection to religious storytelling. But then he found out that Dhirendra was also holding his Divya Darbar sessions, the sessions where he claimed to read minds and perform miracles. That crossed the line. Shyam Manav and his team watched over 40 videos of Dhirendra's events. They analyzed his techniques, and they identified multiple violations of Maharashtra's anti-superstition law. Shyam Manav filed a complaint with the Nagpur police. He provided evidence. He asked them to take action. But the police did nothing. They gave Dhirendra a clean chit, saying they found no evidence of wrongdoing. So Shyam Manav decided to take a different approach. He issued a public challenge. The challenge was simple. Shyam Manav would set up a controlled test. There would be 10 people in a room. Dhirendra had to correctly identify their names, their fathers' names, their ages, and their phone numbers. Additionally, there would be 10 items placed in a sealed room next door. Dhirendra had to correctly identify those items. If Dhirendra could answer with at least 90% accuracy, Shyam Manav would give him 3 million rupees, about $36,000. He would also bow down to Dhirendra's feet, apologize publicly, and disband his organization. But if Dhirendra failed or refused the challenge, it would prove that his powers were fake. The challenge was announced publicly. The media covered it. Social media exploded with debates. Everyone wanted to know, would Bageshwar Baba accept the challenge? January 11th, 2023. According to the posters and advertisements for Dhirendra's event in Nagpur, the Ram Katha was supposed to continue until January 13th. But on January 11th, 2 days before the scheduled end, Dhirendra left Nagpur. He didn't accept Shyam Manav's challenge. He didn't address it publicly. He just left. Shyam Manav called him a deserter. He said that Dhirendra ran away because he knew he would be exposed. But Dhirendra's supporters had a different story. They claimed that the event was always scheduled to end on January 11th. They said the posters were wrong. They said Dhirendra had other commitments and had to leave. Dhirendra himself addressed the issue in a video. He said, "On January 3rd, I clearly mentioned that the event would last only 7 days. That was always the plan. If Shyam Manav wants to challenge me, he can come to my next event in Raipur, or he can come to Bageshwar Baba." In other words, Dhirendra was saying, "I didn't run away, but I'm not going to accept the challenge in Nagpur. If you want to challenge me, come to my territory." Shyam Manav responded with another video. He explained why the challenge had to happen in Nagpur. He said, "To ensure that no information reaches Dhirendra through fraudulent means, we need a controlled environment. We need to make sure there are no planted audience members, no pre-show information gathering, and no tricks. This is why the challenge must happen in Nagpur. There are 2 reasons for this. First, the law and order situation in Maharashtra is strong. The police here are more likely to ensure a fair test. Second, Maharashtra has the anti-superstition law, which gives us legal backing." He also pointed out that Maharashtra's Home Minister, Devendra Fadnavis, had attended one of Dhirendra's events. This suggested that Dhirendra had political connections in Maharashtra. So if the challenge happened in Nagpur, neither side could cheat. But Dhirendra never returned to Nagpur, and he never accepted the challenge. Meanwhile, things took a darker turn. Right-wing Hindu organizations in Nagpur started burning effigies of Shyam Manav. They accused him of insulting Hinduism. They accused him of being anti-Hindu. Shyam Manav started receiving death threats. People told him he would meet the same fate as Narendra Dabholkar, that he would be killed just like his mentor. Fortunately, the Maharashtra government provided Shyam Manav with police protection. But the question remained, why didn't Dhirendra accept the challenge? If he truly had divine powers, the challenge should have been easy. He could have proven his abilities, won 3 million rupees, and silenced his critics forever. But he didn't. He left Nagpur. He avoided the challenge. And he continued holding his events in places where he had more control. To anyone paying attention, the conclusion was obvious. Dhirendra Shastri, also known as Bageshwar Baba, was a fraud. Here's the thing. Bageshwar Baba is not unique. He's not even original. The tricks he uses, the claims he makes, the way he manipulates people, all of it has been done before, by hundreds, maybe thousands of fake spiritual leaders. India has a long history of such frauds, and they come from all religions. In 2017, the Akhil Bhartiya Akhada Parishad, the highest governing body of Hindu sadhus in India, released a list of 14 fake Babas. They warned people to stay away from these frauds because they were giving real spiritual leaders a bad name. The list included some very famous names: Asaram Bapu, who was later convicted of assaulting a minor; Radhema, who was accused of dowry harassment; Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh, who was convicted of violent crimes and is currently serving a prison sentence; Nirmal Baba, who became famous for giving bizarre advice on TV. But the list didn't stop there. There were many others. Nityananda, who fled India after being accused of multiple crimes; Chandraswamy, who was involved in financial scams; Premananda, who was convicted of causing harm to followers. And it's not just Hindu Babas. You can find frauds in every religion. There are Muslim fake spiritual leaders who claim to have special powers. In one case, a man named Akmal Raza told a woman that if she wanted to cure her husband's illness, she had to hand over her daughter to him. He was later arrested. There are Christian pastors who claim to perform miracles. There are videos of them claiming to heal people, make blind people see, and make paralyzed people walk. But when investigated, these miracles are always exposed as tricks. One of the most famous examples is from Kerala, India. A woman went to confession at a church. In the Catholic tradition, confession is supposed to be private and confidential. But the priest recorded her confession and used it to manipulate her for years. These frauds exist in every religion, and they all use the same techniques. They prey on vulnerable people who are sick, desperate, or facing problems in their lives. They offer hope, they offer solutions, and they demand money, loyalty, and sometimes much worse. But here's the most important thing to understand. Real spiritual leaders don't do this. Real spiritual leaders don't claim to perform miracles. They don't ask for money. They don't exploit people. History is full of genuine spiritual figures. Adi Shankaracharya, Kabir, Guru Nanak, Swami Vivekananda, Baba Farid, Jiddu Krishnamurti. These were people who dedicated their lives to helping others, teaching philosophy, and promoting ethical living. None of them claimed to read minds. None of them claimed to cure cancer with cow urine. None of them ran businesses exploiting desperate people. The concept of a spiritual teacher is not inherently bad. In fact, it can be incredibly valuable. A good spiritual teacher can act as a life coach, a counselor, a guide. But the key word is good. And most of the people calling themselves Babas today are not good. They're frauds. They're con artists. They're businessmen using religion as a product. So here's the question. If these Babas are frauds, why do millions of people believe in them? There are several reasons. Reason 1, lack of education. Many people in India, especially in rural areas, don't have access to quality education. They don't understand how these tricks work. They don't have the tools to critically analyze what they're seeing. When they see a Baba reading minds, they genuinely believe it's a miracle. Reason 2, flaws in the education system. But it's not just about literacy. Even educated people fall for these frauds. Why? Because the Indian education system doesn't focus on critical thinking. Students are taught to memorize information and repeat it in exams. They're not taught to question, to analyze, to think independently. So even people with college degrees can fall for pseudoscience and superstition. Reason 3, desperation. Life is hard. People face problems, health problems, financial problems, family problems, relationship problems. In most developed countries, people go to therapists or counselors when they face mental or emotional struggles. But in India, that culture hasn't fully developed yet. Mental health care is still stigmatized, so when people have problems, they don't know where to turn. And that's when these fake Babas step in. They offer hope, they offer solutions, and desperate people are willing to believe. Reason 4, faith. Faith means believing without evidence. It means accepting something as true simply because you want it to be true. And when people have faith, they stop questioning. They stop thinking critically, they just believe. This is what makes faith so dangerous. It can be exploited. Now, I'm not saying all faith is bad. Faith can be a source of comfort and strength for many people. But when faith leads you to stop thinking, stop questioning, and start handing over your money and your trust to con artists, that's when it becomes a problem. Let me tell you about someone who dedicated his life to exposing these frauds. James Randi was one of the most famous magicians in the world. But he didn't use his skills to scam people. He used them to educate people. Randi founded the James Randi Educational Foundation and created the $1 million Paranormal Challenge. The challenge was simple. If anyone in the world could demonstrate genuine supernatural or paranormal abilities under controlled conditions, they would win $1 million. For years, people tried. Psychics, faith healers, astrologers, ghost hunters, they all tried, and they all failed. Because none of it was real. It was all tricks, and Randi knew the tricks because he was a magician himself. James Randi passed away in 2020, but his work lives on. And his message is clear: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Bageshwar Baba makes extraordinary claims. He claims to read minds. He claims to know things he couldn't possibly know. He claims to cure diseases with blessings and cow urine. But where's the evidence? Where's the controlled test? Where's the proof? There is none. Because it's all a trick designed to exploit vulnerable people and build a cult following. Now, some people might say, what's the harm? If people want to believe, let them believe. But there is harm. Real harm. People spend money they don't have on these fake Babas. They delay real medical treatment because they believe in fake cures. They abandon logic and reason, making them vulnerable to other forms of exploitation. And in some cases, these fake Babas commit serious crimes. Assault, fraud, manipulation. The history is full of examples. This is why it's important to expose these frauds. This is why people like Shyam Manav risk their lives to challenge them. And this is why we need to promote scientific thinking, critical thinking, and rational thought. India has a rich spiritual tradition. Real spiritual leaders who taught compassion, ethics, and wisdom. We should honor that tradition by rejecting the frauds who exploit it. So what do you think? Is Bageshwar Baba a miracle worker? Or is he a fraud? The evidence speaks for itself. If you found this video informative, make sure to share it with your friends and family. Let's spread awareness. Let's protect people from being exploited. And if you want more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until next time, stay curious and stay skeptical.